Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Karina, and this is my new channel that I will be starting off. This is my first video that I'm actually recording for somebody out of the fact that, I'm just here. I'm being obedient to God. God has been pursuing me for a long time to do this, right? I started off with a lot of videos, like just no makeup, not getting ready, just spare the moment and just get on, right? And I would just do it and post it and everything like that. But then the enemy, pretty much like kind of took my voice away, right? But God gave me my voice, and everything the enemy means for evil, it always comes for good, right? With God, right? Like he just turns it around. In Genesis 50:20, it says, as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, right? So this is something that has been, God, as a child growing up, I was silenced. I didn't have a voice. I was very scared, very timid. Didn't have no say, didn't even know what boundaries were, didn't know anything, and didn't know I could say no, didn't know I could say, no, I don't like that, I don't want that, or I like this, or I want this, like that was never my story, right? Like growing up, right? But as I gotten older, as God has been working on me and healing me, and also going to therapy, coming to AA now, coming back, realizing that I have a voice, and that I do matter, and it doesn't matter what I say, I don't need to be qualified. That was another thing. So I thought, okay, I need to go to school, I need to get certified, and which, don't get me wrong, that's something I'm still gonna do, but that's not something that qualifies me, right? It's him, right? So I've been praying to God, because God has been putting it in my heart to share his goodness, his grace, his mercy, his love, his testimony, my test to a testimony, my mess to a message, right? And just giving me his new ideas, giving all these new ideas and downloading them in me, and just telling me to step out in faith, to not keep having fear, because he didn't give us a spirit of fear, but of a sound mind, right? So today, I just felt moved by the Spirit to share my story. And my story, there's a lot of testimonies about myself, but this one has been very dear to my heart. And the Holy Spirit wants me to share this, because today it has made me who I am today. I thank God for this, for my suffering. I thank God for what I went through, even though it was painful, even though I didn't understand, even though I didn't want to do it. I still don't want to do it sometimes. It's very hard. I used to say I don't wish this upon nobody, but if it has to take what it took for somebody to get it, what it took me to get it, then I'm sorry to say, but I'm like, man, go for it, but it's just painful, sometimes I don't want to see people in pain and suffering, but that's what God says, is that we will suffer, unfortunately. That's something that I didn't understand, coming to Christ. I thought that when I follow God, when I accept God, my life was going to be peaches and cream. I was going to be, of course, in the beginning, you're feeling, you're feeling good. Everything in my lines, doors are opening up right away. You're not knowing about spiritual warfare, really, you're a baby, so it's just all good. And yeah, and I didn't think that, I thought that, with God, there was no suffering, that you know, I was gonna get everything I want. I was gonna, you know, all these doors were gonna open. I was gonna get my husband. I was gonna have a good marriage and my good child. Like everything's just gonna be good and perfect, right? Never suffer, you know, because I already suffered as a child, right? So I'm like, okay, now that since I suffered, everything's gonna be good. This is the life. This is like I hit the lotto, right? And I did, but at the same time, it was distorted, right? My beliefs, my thinking, my process system, you know, the way I see things, the way I interpret things, my perceptions, everything was just distorted. So, with that being said, I want to share my testimony for a little bit, and then we're gonna go into the test and everything. Okay, what the Holy Spirit wants to share. So, this is my little kitty. Batman. He's like my little tail. So he will be right here with me. Okay, but starting in the beginning, I hated myself. I hated my life. I hated just everything. I hated my mind. I hated my body. I hated my thoughts, my mind, who I was. Just to the point where I'm gonna sum it up, because right now it's not really a testimony about directly me, but it is gonna be highlighted because this is a part for God's glory, right? So I hated myself. I hated everything. I lost my father as a child growing up. You know, to drugs and alcohol. I come from a family of divorce. Addict family, gang members in my family, and I just wanted to kill myself pretty much, right? The enemy had an assignment to take me out, and that's what he was trying to do. So October 15, 2021, that mission, that assignment that day was to take my life by taking as much drugs as possible. I was on cocaine, some kind of pills. I took a bunch of pills, I think like Advil PMs, cough medicine. I think I had some like Norcos or something. I'm not too sure which one it was, but it was some kind of pain pills. And I was just drinking heavily, and I was just taking the pills. And I was like, I'm just done. I don't want to do this no more. And my heart was beating fast. I felt like I was ODing. I was scared, and I remember my daughter was asleep, and I remember telling her, "Mama, I'm sorry, I failed you." And I heard a really loud voice say, "No, no," like loud, like "no," and I'm like, not like that, but like just like "no," like that, like "no." And I'm like, "No," like what do you mean no? And it's like "no," like not like that, but like "no," like with authority, right? Like that thing echoed, right? Like the voice was just echoed, like, and I just knew, like when they say every knee shall bow when Jesus Christ comes, like that's what, like I already knew, like I didn't have a relationship with God, but I already knew it was God, right? When I heard the noise, and he's like no, and I was like, what do you mean no? And he's like no, like this is not it. And I was like, well then help me, right? Instantly I was sober. Instantly I was driven by the Spirit. I didn't even know the Spirit, right? By the Spirit, got myself. It was like a out of body experience or something. Like something just took over me. I immediately went to the drugs, got the drugs, threw it in the trash, and ever since that day forward, I never picked up cocaine from that point forward. Okay. Fast forward, that was my introduction to God. I started reading the Bible. The Holy Spirit again drove me to a Christian store, got a Bible, started reading the Bible, and then I went on my journey to go pretty much to try to go to church. I got this was October, so like in February was when I started attending the church. My daughter we're still living in Whittier, but we're living in Whittier, and we're walking, and this big church was they had a bunch of people. They looked happy, they looked pretty, and they looked all like they had it all together. And they told me the service times. I went, I started getting involved with church, and I remember my husband. My husband met me in my addiction. Okay, so we've been together going on 8 years. September 1st, we'll be 8 years together, but be married 3 years. Going on, it'll be 4 next year. And February 2nd will be 4 years. So, I was with him. He was with me through my addiction. We got together September 1st, 2019. So imagine, I got clean October 5th, 2021. So during that time, he was going through my whole addiction with me, and leaving him, partying, drinking, getting high, all the whole 9 yards, right? So when I came to the Lord, they had told me either like he came to me, but he was like, I'm not gonna do this, I don't want this, like this is not for me. And it got really ugly. I remember I told him, well, then you're the devil, I don't want anything to do with you. You're not gonna stop me, like, and I was being really ugly to him. But I was also, I wanted to try a new way of life, right, with him, but he didn't want it. And I remember I had a leader at the time. She told me this, okay? She said, if you stay, I seen girls. She was like, you need to leave him. And I was like, I'm not gonna leave him. I'm not gonna leave him because he was with me. He was with me in my addiction. So why would I leave him now? Now that my life is gonna get good, why am I gonna leave him now? Like that to me, that just didn't sit right with me, right? So she said, okay, well, you make that decision, just know that you're not gonna have no peace. And I was like, okay, whatever. I'm in love. I'm okay, like whatever, right? So then I have a friend, I'm going to women's groups, and they're telling me that I'm living in sin, right? Because I'm sleeping with my boyfriend at the time, which is my husband, but at the time he's my boyfriend. And I was sleeping with him, fornicating, right? And I'm thinking, what's this? I don't really care because we're together. Like, I've been with this guy. It's not like it's just some random dude, right? So, because that was my worldly thinking, right? So then I started feeling a little conviction. I'm like, all right, you know what? I don't want to live in sin no more. I told him, let's get married. And he was kind of like, nah, not really. He didn't really want to get married. But then he was like, at the same time, like, okay. I remember a friend telling me too that I was going to be blessed, if I were to marry him. So that was my motivation. And there was, I'm going to be honest. I got to be honest. So I married him because honestly, I did want to honor the Lord, but that wasn't the first one. The first thing was I wanted to control him. I thought, and I wanted to prove my love to him. I wanted to prove to him that because he always felt like I was going to leave. He felt like, because he's been burnt by his ex-wife, that was his story, right? So I was like, well, I want to prove to him that I love him, I'm gonna be with him, so that was my motivation to get married. That was one. Second one was I thought, okay, if I marry this guy, he's gonna turn it around, like he's gonna change, and he's gonna love me, he's gonna take care of me, he's gonna see me as like his other part, right? Or something like have more authority, I guess you can say, but for the control, right? And then lastly, of course, to honor God, right? See, I was like, lastly. So I did it. I remember the day that we got married. No one agreed with it. No one was for it. I had another lady that I talked to, and she said we were gonna just go sign some papers. And I'm thinking, okay, cool. We're gonna sign some papers. We're gonna be married under law, whatever, and we'll be good, right? And I'm gonna be fornicating, this and that. We go, we set up. I ask her like, hey, so how's everything? Like, what's the process? What are we gonna do? Oh yeah, just you just sign the papers. I'm like, okay. So we go. We're not even dressed up, okay. And that day, we go and we're signing papers. And I remember she said we have to do like, for better, for worse, like the vows part, right? There was like a little script. And I started crying because I felt burnt. I felt burnt because I'm like, first of all, my parents are not here, that my mom's not here. People that care about him are here as kids. Nobody, his parents, nobody's here. Just his attorney witnesses. We didn't even record it. It was just very sad, you know, and it wasn't sad that I, you know, because of I married him and we're crying that day. And he's like, what's wrong? And I'm just like, I just felt burnt, you know. And it wasn't that I was crying because I married him. It was just crying that the way it was, right? So that happens. You know, there I go thinking my expectations, thinking, okay, now that I got married, everything should change. He should love me. He should treat me like royalty. He should walk, pretty much like put out a red carpet for me, right? And put me on a pedestal. That was my